GoForThe2.com and NCAABlitz.com. It's August, and that can only mean one thing. We're 20 days away from the start of the 2013 college football season. I can't wait. Stay with me a little bit later in the month. I'm going to have more in-depth analysis, previews, and predictions for Week 1 games. I'm going to break down a very intriguing matchup Thursday, August 29th. It's a 6 o'clock start. It's on ESPN. It matches up the ACC going up against the SEC. I'm talking about North Carolina and second-year head coach Larry Fedora traveling to Columbia to take on Steve Spurrier and the Gamecocks. On paper, South Carolina looks like the clear heavy favorite. They've won 13 straight season openers. 5 of those opponents have been BCS caliber teams, so it's simple. South Carolina does not lose opening day. Do they get another fast start in 2013? We'll have to see. I'm going to give a quick keys and notes for both offenses and defenses. Let's look at North Carolina right now. They're led by their senior quarterback, Bryn Renner. He's solid. He's an NFL caliber quarterback in my opinion. He makes solid decisions, and he has an above-average arm. He threw for 28 touchdowns last year in the first year of Larry Fedora's offense. How will he progress in the second year? We'll have to see. They like to run a very up-tempo, fast attack. If you have a weakness with North Carolina heading into this ball game, it's on the offensive line. They're going to have to replace 4 starters. Bryn Renner on that offensive line lost both tackles and their starting guard, Travis Bond. Both of those guys on the tackle position were 6'7", 330 plus. Bond was 6'7" as well. So he loses a very big offensive line, an offensive line that only surrendered 11 sacks in 2012. So how's that matchup going to go up against a very experienced defensive line in South Carolina and, of course, Jadeveon Clowney? They're going to have to keep an eye on Clowney. That offensive line is going to have to gel very quickly in game number 1 if North Carolina is going to have any chance to pull off the upset. When you look at the South Carolina defense, they have a very strong defensive line, a very experienced secondary, a lot of juniors and seniors. If they do have a hole, it's in their linebacker position. Their Mike and Will linebackers are both sophomores. They're also starting a redshirt freshman at the other position. So can North Carolina exploit the inexperience in the passing game going up against the inexperienced linebackers for South Carolina? Can North Carolina in that up-tempo attack create problems in the short to intermediate passing game? We're going to have to see. North Carolina has a very solid tight end. He's 6'4", 256, and he can create mismatches going up against the sophomores and redshirt freshman linebackers. So we're going to have to see how that matchup takes place a little bit later in the month and see how it forms. I'm going to look at some practice notes and see how both teams are doing. But that's going to be a key for the North Carolina offense. Can that up-tempo attack create enough rhythm and tempo to keep Jadeveon Clowney in check and the rest of that South Carolina defense? If you want to make a comparison for South Carolina, what team did they go up against that runs a similar attack in 2012? You could look at the Missouri Tigers. They dominated Missouri, and quarterback James Franklin, they dominated them in South Carolina. Jadeveon Clowney, he was all over the place. But when you're looking at quarterbacks, Bryn Renner's a step up from James Franklin. So we'll have to see. He's able to sit back in the pocket. He's able to throw the ball deep. He has a very good touch. And Bryn Renner can exploit the South Carolina defense if he's given time. South Carolina offensively is going to have some problems. They're going to have to be able to run the football against North Carolina, and they're going to have to be able to run the football for the 2013 season if they have any shot to win the SEC. When you look at last year in 2012 with Marcus Lattimore as a team, South Carolina rushed an average 3.67 yards per game. They're going to need a better average. Lattimore's moved on to the NFL. It's going to be up to sophomore Mike Davis to step up and show that he could be the running back that Marcus Lattimore was for South Carolina. He's going to need to show and pound the rock to take the pressure off of senior quarterback Connor Shaw. When you look at both losses last season against LSU and against Florida, Connor Shaw struggled. He was rushed against a very tough defensive lines in LSU and Florida, and he struggled. He made some poor decisions in both of those ball games that cost the South Carolina Gamecocks both losses. So we're going to have to see if the running game can come to fruition in 2013 and to see if that can create enough balance where Connor Shaw isn't asked to win each and every ball game. When you look at the wide receiver position, Bruce Ellington's solid. He becomes the go-to guy with the departure of Ace Sanders. So it's going to be a very intriguing offense for the Gamecocks and head coach Steve Spurrier. Defensively for North Carolina, they're going to have to try and create pressure. Their defensive line is going to have to step up and cause enough pressure on Connor Shaw. They're going to have to use some blitzes and blitz schemes. They can't allow South Carolina to just move down the field methodically and use ball control. Otherwise, they'll lose this ball game. So it's going to be a very intriguing matchup. We'll see how it progresses, but stay with me all season long and look for me a little bit later in the month with a prediction and a more in-depth preview of this ball game at GoForThe2.com and NCAABlitz.com.